All right, you ready to go, Atticus?
Yeah.
All right, let's do this.
All right. First and foremost, on behalf of the organisers and myself, I'd like to thank those that are here for showing up to this meeting and, more importantly, taking part in the XNL. On the whole, our opinions are it was a success. It achieved the majority of aims that we had for it in the first place, so we're very happy with that. And again, I extend my thanks on behalf of everybody involved in the organised event. As far as feedback, I'll be going over the feedback, so I'm going to give you a couple of pointers that I took. Some of them have been negated in the weeks since due to the future plans that we'll go on to afterwards. So just so that we don't end up going over the same ground, I'll just lay down what we know already worked and didn't work. So to begin with, give me 2 seconds. Sorry, the dog's going mental. So scheduling was the biggest issue. Without a shadow of a doubt, scheduling was the biggest issue. It could be quite chaotic and it was very difficult. So any future events we will source a proper scheduling tool, one that meets our needs and your needs as closely as possible. As you all know, there are plenty of scheduling tools out there. And that segues straight into we won't run 2 events or 3 events at once anymore. That won't happen again. It wasn't quite supposed to happen. The reason was I envisaged a lot of the 8-gun matches taking place during the week. As it transpired, most regiments preferred to play at the week, which was absolutely fine and worked out. It did drag it on about 2 weeks longer than planned. Again, we were ready for that and it wasn't a big issue, but we know the contributing factors. Be repeating that again. And that segues into, now there is some stuff on the coalitions. Coalitions were both a good idea and had some drawbacks, i.e. many regiments, but Merc will probably touch more on that in his announcement. But any coalitions going forward will be very, they won't be as expansive as they were this time round.
Yeah, no more number 3 regiment teams.
Yeah, and 4 regiment teams. Yeah,
and 4 regiment teams or whatever.
So those are the things that we know were a bit of a drawback. The things that went well, I thought the response to the 2-gun tournament the response to sign-ups, it was an extremely popular event. We will look to run that again in the future, and we may expand on it. We may look at things like a different map rather than open waters. I mean, I've been playing with the idea of using the 8-gun, a variation of the 8-gun map enlarged. So you've got obstacles, things like that, to allow for more maneuvering rather than just, point and shoot. The 8-gun, the gunboat on that, the gunboat battle was a much larger success than I expected it to be. I was dubious when put it together, and it turned out to be a lot of fun. So I would like to bring that back as well at some point in the future as well. The scoring system for the group stages, sorry, that should have been in the one of the drawbacks. It was a bit unclear, and we did in the interest of honesty, we did notice a major flaw with it halfway through the group stages. Now, luckily, nothing triggered that flaw. But again, this will segue into Merc's announcement, because, quite frankly, there's a lot of change going forward. So that's what I've got. So I'm going to call on each regiment just from top to bottom. Give each regiment to provide any feedback, both good and bad, whatever you'd like to say. So we'll start with the first RM here. And do you guys have anything you'd like to state?
Mika, you can go first if you want.
Sure, overall, I enjoyed the events. Thank you for organizing them, first of all. We are probably the newest guys in here. the scheduling problem for us example was that the weekends were pretty much the only time when we had enough people to even bring to the event. So that
Yeah.
was maybe the major drawback, but you know that. But
Yeah,
overall,
no.
we were happy. Thank you for having us, and thank you for taking the time to organize this.
Not a problem.
Yeah, same feedback from me. It certainly didn't help when some Regis were saying they could only do a specific time on a specific day, and it really left no room for movement from us. But yeah, it was great. We had a lot of fun, and I know we're the small fry in this big ocean, but we did enjoy ourselves. So thank you.
Glad
No,
to
thanks
hear
for
it.
participating. This is really good to have you guys.
Thank you.
Okay, Drafen, anything from the 63E?
Yeah, we thought the coalitions was a fantastic idea. It allowed a lot of smaller regiments to like pair up together. We got to play with the first round, and it was pretty good once we sort of ironed out using the same Discord. But yeah, otherwise, we pretty much enjoyed it. The only downside I would say would be what you've covered already, which was running multiple events close together. We had to pull out of the gunboat one, unfortunately, because we just couldn't get the numbers to run a gunboat boat event at the weekend, and then
Mhm.
also get the numbers for that 8 gun.
Yeah.
It would have just burnt out the guys. Plus, while we're doing that, obviously we come from a sort of melee regiment, so I've got guys scheduling group fights and 1v1s and that kind of stuff, and we're all trying to each have a bit of time set aside for that. So it just kind of made things a little bit difficult, but I understand your plan to change that anyway. And then only thing for the 8 gun one was the spawns. I don't think there's any way you can change it, but I noticed that France seemed to get hammered with the spawning, and UK. Oh no, the other way around. UK had like really bad spawns, and France had really nice spawns where the boats sort of spawned with good spacing, so you could get your turn in time. And for some reason, UK just it seemed to always spawn very close together.
I think that was just poor luck, if I'm honest.
Yeah, I think
yeah.
that's all it is. But it was interesting how it happened to every team that went UK. Always had the disadvantage. But
Yes.
again,
So
I don't think that's something you can change. It's just
No, it's not.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I can speak to that as so I made that map. Both spawns are exactly the same size. There's no control I have over as to
Yeah,
how the
it's
ships spawn
just
in,
RNG.
unfortunately. Yep.
AGS things.
AGS. Yep.
Um,
Exactly.
And then I would say the spawns were a little bit close together. Now I remember speaking. I understand your reasoning for it. Just it felt like because the spawns were sort of so crap on UK, if you did spawn just that little bit further away, you might have slightly more time to get turned in and get your line sorted. But again, you didn't want passive, wasting the first 2 minutes of the round trying to get in close. So I understand why you guys had the spawns so close.
Yeah, I think in every way, this could be said to be sort of like this is a hyper aggressive competition, right?
Yeah,
In the positioning. So, but you're right. It's funny that you say that because I'm sure you're correct insofar as one side had sort of more of that turn in, form a line advantage. But I wish there was something we could do. I really wish there was. Oh man, sorry about that.
Yeah, I'm sympathetic with the fact that it's most likely you're going to just be RNG and there's not much you can do.
That won't be a problem in the future. So don't worry.
Cool. But yeah, other than that, we had a really good time. We enjoyed it. We got clobbered the first round, came back, did a nice second round, and then we had the best match, I think, against, who was it, 77th and 3 of me.
That was a great match.
was
That was
great
a
match.
really good match. We were all really excited to see
We were
that
really
one.
sad to lose it, but it was still really well played, so I enjoyed myself, yeah. Good event.
Good to hear. Good to hear.
Thanks for participating. Really appreciate it.
Onto the behemoth that is the KRN. There's a lot of you, so if there's any of you that don't want to give feedback, feel free to say pass. Starting at the top, Barry, anything?
Yeah, I'm gonna say pass because everything that is worth noting has already been said. But it was a really nice nice competition, and I really enjoyed it.
Good. Percy?
I think from my perspective, if there's a way of like centralizing how we do organization, I think that'd be the best way going forward. Apart from that, I don't see an issue with how it was run so far. I've enjoyed it immensely. It's my first comp, and I think many of my fellow KRA members will note that it's our first comp, and we've enjoyed it so far. So any improvements that come in is only going to make it a plus.
Thanks very much. Yeah. A note of that. Darling?
No, thank you, pal. Thank you for having us, but pass.
Excellent. Davey?
Just as Percival said, yeah, this was my first ever comp as well, and I had a really, really good time. I've got no real feedback, just thank you for organising.
Glad to hear. Glad to hear. Jerp.
I mean, I was the one that had the big scheduling problems, and looking
yeah.
back on it, it was mostly my fault. I was not very clear with any of my scheduling stuff. But like you said, it would be nice to have a central thing. But this was my first time organizing a comp thing, so it's probably mostly my fault that I kept fucking it up so many times. But having a central place to do scheduling would be nice.
Yeah.
Other than that, it was a very good thing all around. All of us had fun, no matter what tournament it is. Like even on like the 8-gun rounds, we were still having a laugh in the matches. I don't remember who it was we were versing, but just at the end there, we just started dicking off and goofing around. We were having fun the whole time, especially the gunboats. The first, because we were laughing the first time we went
Yeah,
through
they
it
were a
because we were
riot.
not expecting it at all.
Yeah, they were a lot
I
of
don't
fun.
think anyone was.
Yeah.
So,
Oh.
it was very good.
Good. Thanks very much. Quintus?
Have nothing to add. Thanks. Pass.
No worries. Swaggington?
Like everyone said, absolutely loved the event. All 3 tournaments. My only thing is, I felt we could have done with more rounds in the 2-gun tournament. I felt one for each match was a little bit leaving it down to luck sometimes. But I'm not sure if there was reasoning behind that or if anyone else feels similar.
It was supposed to be a last man standing, so that was the idea behind it. Now, on that, the 8-gun also had a last man standing effect, and if I was going to change one of them, I'd look to change maybe the 8-guns to extend that out more than the. Sorry, I keep saying 8-gun. I mean gunboat. Sorry, I mean gunboat. My head's a bit frazzled because I always get the ships' names wrong. Believe it or not. The gunboat was also a last man standing, and in the future I would look to expanding on the gunboats rather than the 2 guns. I like the idea of the 2 guns being a challenge of accuracy, things like that. But again, I'll take it on. I've noted it down here, and when we go to discuss the future, it'll definitely take it into consideration.
Yeah, I think with the 2 guns, we are going this time we had so many teams. Next time we're going to have even more teams, and to have like multiple phases and rounds with like multiple I think it would be a scheduling nightmare with the amount of people that we are going to have participating, and that's I think was for us the biggest reason that we did just do single elimination. What I will say is that when we got to the final rounds, I think the last like 4 battles were down to literally a single shot every single time. So while obviously I know everybody would have liked to have more opportunities to get to those final rounds, we did see that some of the very best teams that competed did get to the finals and were facing each other. I felt really happy with how the 2 guns ended up. With the teams that ended, I felt like seriously some of the best teams, and I'm not not just talking about us. There were lots of other groups that really made it to those finals and semifinals and kind of quarterfinals. And I don't know if you guys noticed that, but I thought that they were really some of the best teams that made it there.
I mean, that all makes sense reason-wise.
But mostly it was scheduling. It's just the scheduling. We wanted to finish it in a weekend or like a weekend plus a Monday. And if we had multiple, like each team had to do multiple fights before they were knocked out, it would have just taken multiple weekends, I think.
Fair enough.
So
Still greatly enjoyed the 2-gun though.
Yeah,
so.
I hope you did. Thank you.
Yeah.
Okay, Wavy?
Obviously, we will try and upgrade upon our JERP organization system. I think my only thing is, I agree that it'd be nice to have some slightly more interesting maps on the 2-gunners. So the captains actually have a bit more to think about.
Totally.
Okie dokie. No, thank you very much. No. Who's next? Amit.
Hello.
Hello.
First of all, excellent series of events. Otherwise, we wouldn't be here providing our feedback and eagerly awaiting the next announcement. Because of a lot of what I was going to say is already mentioned by you guys as you're looking at improving it, or some of the other fine people here have already suggested it. I'm going to make one suggestion of my own. The rules, yes, while not very clear, that was already discussed. Just in terms of formatting, would it be possible for you to put it into a Google Docs format or something in the future, so that's a little bit more accessible for everybody, so they don't have to actually be in the Discord to see them, as well as it making it easier to view them and search them? That's really the one thing I would say.
I think that's great.
Yeah, no, that's
yeah,
brilliant.
because I ended up doing it for my own team.
That's good.
So yeah. Anyways,
yeah, because we only had reps here for the most part. Like we didn't have the whole
Correct,
teams in the
yeah.
XNL server. So I think that's well said.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, something we didn't consider actually. So rules are more easily accessible, i.e., just in Discord. Yeah,
Yep,
absolutely.
and then it makes it very, very easy for you guys to co-author them at the same time, put your comments and whatnot when you're developing them. Yeah.
Yeah.
Alrighty, off the top, what you got?
Yeah, overall, I thought the tournament, all 3 tournaments were run pretty well. And if you are you are going away from the multiples, I would probably just recommend, if we wanted to do if you're doing a long form like an 8-gun where multiple weekends, you could host a break where, like, do a gunboat for a day where it doesn't matter teams. You, in a sense, say, hey, this server's open for gunboats. Everyone get in. We mismash. We just have fun. Especially for the gunboats, how you have set up that arena. It's really fun to do. So it could be just a nice change of pace, to chillax during a tourney, something like that. If you want to kind of bring that in or not.
Yeah, no. There was a thought that someone mentioned something. I'm not going to go too much into it, but the premise of it I thought would work very much on the gunboat format, and it does play to what you say. It mismatch teams, just
gunboat pickups.
So yeah, but yeah, no, there is some formulation in the back there. So when I come to reform what the gunboats will be next time, I may give you a DM and a couple others a DM and pitch the ideas that I've got for it. So just to see what the buy-in from everybody else is, not just ourselves. So yeah.
How do we brainwash the NA regiments to get involved so that we can have some NA servers? How do we break the line battle?
Yeah, well, we'll see. We'll see. Stick around. We'll see what we can do.
Free hat.
Yes.
Yeah, swag. That's how you get Americans. Give them swag.
Let's kill the line.
You're giving me to who?
People will come.
Yeah, we're gonna give you swag. We're gonna give you away to everybody.
No. We have a monopoly on swag. They're not getting.
Okay.
I've been
wavy. That means you get to set your price.
Yeah, that's true.
That's a good point.
Think of the money you could make. Maybe.
For 5 easy payments of $99.99.
If I take like 25%, I'm fine with it.
We're straying dangerously into the pimping game here, gentlemen.
Okay, then we'll use this to fund the KRN merch.
Yeah. Okie dokie. And Spicy, any feedback?
Nothing new. You already heard pretty much all of our feedback from multiple times in this channel before. And you've already said it all, so nothing new.
Okay, cool. Right, I'm going to go to the X members as well, because I think it's only fair that they get to give any feedback that they had. Motley, anything that hasn't already been mentioned, or?
No, sir. It's all good.
No. Okie dokie. Pinecone?
I'm good.
Safe?
Nothing.
Meagle?
Pass.
Double?
Hello?
Hello.
Just one possible thing I had to say about the gunboat blast is adding in an immunity timer for about 3 or 4 seconds. So people don't get spawn camped, which we experienced in the second.
Yeah,
round,
when the gunboats got tied up together on the map border, yeah, we did. Or when they got boarded, wiped, yeah. Okay, yeah. I
just
will. Okay. Treehouse?
Nope.
Nope. War crime.
All the proposed changes sound great. Love the tournament. Great job. I would maybe slow the gun bus down just a tiny bit, just to allow for more boarding. Boarding seemed really like almost undoable.
Okay. I'll take a note of that as well. Okay, thank you. Just gonna do a quick run through the notes here, see if there's anything I can give any quick feedback on. And thank you all for your feedback. It helps us. It helps us build something that will appeal to you. So, yeah, expand the 2-gun. No, I've got nothing really off the top of my head to feedback on the feedback, and only to thank you. We're pretty much right on schedule for getting the feedback done. So at this point, I'm gonna bow back and I'm gonna hand over to Merc for his announcement.
Okay.
So thank you very much.
Yeah, guys, thanks so much for all your feedback. I'm very happy to hear that you guys have all seriously enjoyed this. And in many ways, well, first of all, let me just take a moment to recognize Atticus and Gunr, and very much recognize Atticus for the conceptual building that he did for this, for putting the rule set together, for going behind the scenes and organizing so much of the scheduling. And just everything that you guys, both of you, put into it. And I know Gunnar was hosting, and he was recording, and he was commentating, and all of that was really inspiring for us to for what comes next. So definitely a little round of applause for these guys who just did such a phenomenal job to running this. I thought that this was a great success, and I'm really heartened to hear that you guys all basically thought, with a few exceptions, that this was run well. As this was basically, to me, a proof of concept exercise to practice the art of running one of these competitions, to see what works and what doesn't, and to see where our weak points are, or scheduling wise, organizationally, and stuff like that. And the goal for me, when I conceived the idea and I passed it on to some of the admirals and adjutants who worked on it, was to get that experience, to get our team trained up and ready to go, so that we could possibly move on to even other larger, more ambitious projects than this. And again, everything that I saw from what Atticus and Gunr and some of the other adjutants who helped, and some of the other judges who helped, there's just a lot of green lights here to move on forward. And so then I'd like to talk to you about what I'd like to do next. So some of the guys at the KRN who have known me for a long time have joked with me before, always telling me like, "Hey, Merc, your grand campaign idea, like, it's never going to happen. It's never going to happen." And joking around that you love it, but it's never going to happen. And it is in fact never going to happen, unfortunately. But it was the idea in my head that I had probably like 2.5 or so years ago, which is to create some sort of pan-regimental, communal, but constant experience, like a sort of never-ending story mode or something that we could all participate in together. And the problem is that it never really seemed to attract the enthusiasm of regiment leaders who could gather their crews on a regular basis and have lots of like battles that would feel competitive, but would not just be consigned to like a single few week period like most of the comps are. And so I put that idea down, and I realized that the real thing that motivates people is competition. Like, the idea of being recognized, the idea of being seen by the community and awarded by the community for the achievements that you create. And so that idea has transformed into what I would like to call the Naval Sports League, which will be a weekly competitive game that will receive the full coverage and prestige that competitive battles get. And very much in the same vein of what you guys have been doing over the last few weeks, but in the context of a sport. A sports game that will happen every week. Now, this is not going to be every regiment every week fighting battles in that sort of chaotic crunch that we all did in this time. I wanted to instead create something that is both competitive but sustainable in a long-term way, something that has competition at its heart, but also includes the sort of media coverage that you would expect from a competitive sports experience. And so that's what I want to transition this competition into in the future. So let me explain some of the details of how this would work. Ideally, every week at a set time. Right now, I'm thinking, because it seems like everybody's in line battles right now, but at that like 3:15 time, so just to say in about 45 minutes from now, it seems that everybody gets out of those line battles and that there may be a space to host about a 30-minute battle. That battle would be, again, we'd have pre-coverage on a stream. We would stream the event itself with commentary, just like we had on previous, like in here where we had in the tavern where people were coming in to hear the commentary and enjoy the experience. And then we had post-game coverage of the competitive round. This would be 2 teams in the league competing every week. And that's part of the sustainability factor that we're looking for, because scheduling is the monster. It's the great like white whale that we have to slay to make these things work. And so what I'm looking for is a set time that all the teams can agree on. And we're looking for somewhere around 7 to 10 teams if possible. Those teams can be a large regiment like the KRN, who I'm sure could bring 30 people if the time is right. And as long as X, we could probably bring somewhere around like 20 to 25 people ourselves. To the 2-team combinations, which I think can reliably get up between like to 15 to 20 people. That was what we saw throughout this the XNL, that was a realistic expectation for people to bring. And so using those numbers as our basis, what I would like to do is have, again, those 30-minute battles, and the team sizes, despite what I've just said, will actually be probably more closer to the 30s. So how do we get that without asking you guys to bring more? And the way that we're going to do that is, again, we are only going to have 2 teams in the league playing on each time period. Let's say it's Sunday. Let's say it's at that time that I said, well, we're all going to negotiate this together, and we'll have a larger, deeper conversation with all of the regiments and teams that assemble for it to find that perfect time. But let's say that that's the time. There will be 2 teams, which will, again, 15 to 20 from each team. And then all the people who are not participating, who are in other teams that are in the league, but their teams are not playing on that specific day, will be able to sign up as individuals, as mercenaries, and we will choose randomly from those mercenaries to fill out another 10 to 15 participants per team and get that to the 60-man total battle, right? 30v30 battle that we're looking for. So to get into even more minute detail, we're looking to have the following ships per battle: a 13, 4 8-guns, and 2 boats. And we'll talk about the boats in a little bit. But the idea is to create a mixed fleet feeling where there can be specialists of all different kinds of ships. And each of these battles are going to be centrally commanded. One of the things that we noticed is that the more regiments that were in the stew of a coalition, the harder it was for them to have a tactical cohesion. And we're going to really talk with the people who run these teams and say, like, listen, you've all got to be in the same Discord together. There is one commander over your fleet. You can create sub-commanders and you can delegate and all that. That's fine. But there has to be one vision. There's a coach for your sports team. And he's going to be determining, obviously, usually it'll be regimental leaders, but they can appoint anybody that they want who they think has that talent, to really have them be admirals fighting admirals with strategy. And then on the ground, having each of those teams trying to execute strategies in a much larger, kind of slower atmosphere. So I know you guys were thinking, I'm sure a lot of what you took away, not as necessarily a bad thing, but as a feature of the XNL, was how fast and brutal these battles were, and how they were just one of 2 things. It was 2 lines going in one direction, or that death spiral we always talk about. And I don't want that to be the only 2 ways that this game is played. So these 30-man teams that we're hoping to build, let's talk about how and what those battle experiences will look like. So first off, Killam has created a beautiful Coliseum map. Maybe some of you guys have seen the Coliseum map before in some of our events, but we've made it humongous. Killam, if you have a moment, feel free to pull it up and have it on standby, and we can look at it later. I don't know if you're available to do that right now, but if you're not, that's fine too. We'll definitely show you pictures of what we're looking at here. We're going to have multiple different maps within that Coliseum, so it's not going to just be a static Coliseum map. We're going to have right now the ideas I have are obviously an open ocean, just open water, but then there will be half islands, half ocean. There will be half large islands, half small islands. There will be a sort of narrower one with like structures in it. So we're going to try and make it so that there's a variety of maps, and they will be kind of randomized. So every week that you guys will play, you will know ahead of time what map you're going to be on. You'll be able to have probably a week or more of strategy or time to strategize how you're going to approach that map and how you're going to approach your enemies. You're going to know if you're going to be British or French. You're going to understand how that map is going to influence your tactical proceedings. Once we get into the battles themselves, there are going to be some major changes to how the ships are going to work. Specifically, the HP for these ships are going to be tremendously large. The idea here is that we want these ships to last until you are almost out of cannons on both sides. And we want the ships to have so much HP that if you lose all your cannons on one side, you actually have the comfortable HP buffer that you could flip that ship around and use the other side of your cannons. In realistic and in historical naval battles, ships did not go down for like days. It could go but at least a full day's worth of battle where the ship is completely disabled and yet is still up and can receive boarding parties. Boarding and melee is one of the most important things that I really want to accentuate, because artillery is not everything in naval, but there are some problems with melee, as you all know. Ships at high speed drag those melee stabs to an absurd degree. So alongside having the ships have really high HP, which will encourage and make viable melee and boarding strategies, we're also going to be slightly slowing down the top speeds of the ship. So we're going to go to a point, I think right now we're looking at 0.7 speed instead of just a static 1 as is the normal speed. This cuts about 3 knots off the top of the max speeds of the ships. And it's at those max speeds where melee is always most impacted. So again, these battles are going to be at a much larger area. They're going to have much larger ship HPs, and they're going to be slightly slower in the max ship speed. All of these things are intended to create a situation and a play style where artillery or boarding is equally viable as a strategy, that you can charge your ship into an enemy line when you get to a certain distance, and you don't have to worry that your ship is automatically absolutely going to go down. So if you choose a strategic option to dedicate one ship to just boarding enemies and shutting them down, that can work for you. What else can I say about this? Let's see. So obviously this is going to be a sports league, and this is going to be treated in every way like a sports league. So pulling back from the minute details of how the battles are going to work, I want to talk to you about how the league itself is going to function. Like I said, there's going to be 2 teams battling every week. And then there will be many teams who are not battling every week. But those teams, over the course of a month or 2 months, every team should be battling. You should think of it somewhere around the lines, and this is something that Chewy was asking me earlier. How often are we going to be expected to show up? Because we can't show up every week. That's too much. And that's not, I think you guys, with the amount of teams, like that 7 to 10 teams that we're looking to put together for this league, once a month is a realistic expectation of how many times per month you're going to be called. So it's probably just about 1 weekend a month you'll be called on that Sunday time. Let's take a quick detour from this to just take a look at Killam's screen, and you can see the size that we're looking at here. It is absolutely massive. If you're looking at Killam's stream right now, we're actually going to pull these spawns even further back, closer to the walls. But this is the size that we're looking at, like a very huge and very deliberate, because these battles should be, at minimum, these battles should be 20 minutes long, a single battle, because of the high ship HP and because of the slowness of the maneuvering and the ability for you guys to really outthink and outplay your opponents, and to be able to make a mistake and then recover from that mistake, to lose a ship and then come back from the loss. That I really want this to be a very forgiving league to making mistakes or to creating, again, deep tactical considerations here. So I hope that this looks a lot more deliberative and a lot more strategy focused. And again, it's not going to be all open ocean. There's going to be multiple variations of the maps that are going to be filled with islands or obstacles that you guys are going to get to play with. And again, you'll know that ahead of time. So this is what we're looking at here. But this is the Coliseum itself. What we put in the Coliseum may change, but this is the size of the map. Anyway, as I was saying, going back to sort of how the league is going to work and some of the services that we're going to provide to really hype up the league and build clout and build reputation for the people who are participating. Each team in this league is going to have a win-loss record. That win-loss record is going to contribute to an end-of-the-year tournament like you have just experienced in the XNL, where the highest percentage, we're going to find a percentage of teams that we find is appropriate, and that highest percentage of teams are going to fight in a single elimination sort of knockout competition, similar to what you were dealing with in some of the XNL competitions. Then we're going to give the Caesar crown, the championship crown, to whichever team wins that final thing. So you're building up a win-loss record over the course of the year's worth of seasons. And at the end of the year, you and the other highest performing teams are going to compete with each other to get that Caesar crown and be claimed the champion of the league for that year. This is just like any other sports league that you can imagine. If you're a sports fan, this is going to sound pretty familiar to you. Alongside that, the coverage that we're going to be providing is going to get really minute. Warbleworth in X, if you know him, one of our admirals, has a really advanced score tracking system that gets down to the individual player. He could tell you who the highest performing players on your team are with great accuracy. He could tell you who got the overall average high score. He could tell you who has peak high scores. He could tell you real specifics about the performances. And we've been pulling the data from our servers to create this database of player statistics. And we're going to continue to use that. That's probably what we're going to use in the beginning, but over time, we're going to transition to only using the data from the matches themselves to create commentary that we're going to be able to do over our Twitch live stream to really create a situation where people who are in this battle are going to be named and congratulated and noticed and recognized on an individual level for the contributions that they're making to the battles that they're going to be participating in. We're going to have ahead of time, we're going to have players to watch, MVPs from last battles who we're going to have people actually not on the ships themselves with you, but who are actually watching over your shoulders. And in that coverage, we're going to have, when somebody boards somebody else, we're going to have a camera there to see it happen. We're going to be able to talk about who is performing well, who's making a difference in the battle. And then we're also going to get myself at that bird's eye view, talking about how the overall strategy of the ships is contributing to the victories. We really want to professionally cover your guys' tactics, experiences. I'm going to be talking to the admirals ahead of time, trying to get a feeling for what it is that they're planning to do to the enemy. We're going to have after action conversations with some of the admirals. How did your strategy go? What led to your victory or defeat, and how do you feel about that? Who did you think was an MVP on your team, and does that compare and contrast to the data that we're going to be able to pull right as soon as that game is over? So we're going to try and really, really, in an advanced way, create that sports fan atmosphere and then put it out into the world and hopefully get a following of people who are interested in watching your guys' battles. A little bit of specifics. Obviously, we talked about the ships, the 13 gun, the 8 guns, and the gunboats. Those of you who really are deep into the config may know that that saying that we're going to put 4 times the amount of ship HP on ships is all well and good for the larger ships, but for the gunboats, it is absolutely impossible. If you do 4 times the ship HP on a gunboat, what will happen is that gunboat will get shot, it will lose all its cannons, and it will lose its mass, and it will become a useless rowboat. So we're not going to be increasing the ship HP of the gunboats themselves. They're going to stay at 500. Instead, every team is going to start with 3 gunboats and 3 rocket boats in their spawn. Those cannot be targeted by enemy ships until they are manned and moving, until you see that sail drop. Instead, the teams are going to be able to choose any 2 of those ships to be active at any time. So you start off, your 13 takes off, your 8 guns take off, and then you pick. Maybe you want to start, maybe your team strategy is to start with the 2 gunboats and harass the enemy ships in the beginning and save your rocket boats for finishing off ships at the end, or vice versa. But that's going to be up to your tactical considerations, and it's going to be a way that you can play with some of the deployment to create different kinds of battles and different kinds of strategies with each other. So that is the only nuance to how the ships are going to work. Let me think if there's anything else that I want to talk about. We will be recognizing at the end of the season. Obviously, there's the Caesar crown for the victorious team and the victorious admiral, but we will also be recognizing with, again, that really advanced scorekeeping system that we have for all the players in Naval that participate on our servers. We'll be able to give gold crowns to the top. We want to give a gold crown to the #1 top player out of the entire league. We're going to be the next 9 people will get silver crowns for top scorers, and then we'll have from like 11 to 30 we'll have bronze crowns for those guys. So we will be recognizing individual players, and that's very important to me because I want to make sure that when your team is fighting another team and you have a bunch of mercenaries that are from other competitors in the league, that those guys are motivated to put out their best effort, because at the end of the day, they can win individual plaudits for their accomplishments. They can win individual crowns, and that will be their play in any team that they're playing on. That score will be contributed. So if you're a great player and you want to show the world how great of a player you are, excuse me, you definitely want to participate as a mercenary even on weeks where your team is not actively playing. But for organizational purposes, your regimental combined team is only going to probably be asked to play once a month, maybe at absolute maximum. I don't really see it, but maybe twice a month. And so that is that sort of sustainability that we want to keep over the long term, so that you guys can always get that competitive experience in the league without having to go apeshit scheduling. We will have a single time. Everybody will have agreed on it. And we will, obviously, if you have individual weekends that you can't do, we'll try to work around that as well. But the idea being that if we all agree on one time, everybody can make it on the weeks that they are scheduled. And we're going to schedule this league out very early on. It's not going to be like a week-to-week thing. We will get everybody together, we'll find the right time, and then we will schedule those weeks out so you can prepare ahead of time to know when your turn is coming up. Get your guys ready. Obviously, we'll be there to support, remind you, and help you with all that, and get your mercenaries delivered to you the week ahead of time so that you can practice with them, and so on and so forth. I think that's everything I can say for the Naval Sports League for right now. So at that point, I want to open it up to any questions or concerns that you guys might have, and hear a little bit about what you think of the idea, and if this is something you guys want to participate in. So I'll be a little bit more chaotic with this. Is there anybody who has any questions to start off with? Just raise your voice.
I have a question.
Okay, what's your question?
Is it possible to make the statistics that Wobble provides public, so we can?
They
see
will
it?
be public. Yeah, everybody's statistics are going to be. Sorry, thank you. That's a great question. I didn't even get to that. Everybody's stats are going to be public. You're going to get to see where you are on that list. We might do like maybe the top 100 players, depending on how many we have. But like, you will get to see where you are on that list. That will be publicly available after every battle. Warble is going to. It's pretty easy for him. He pulls the records, he puts them in his system, and then he's going to produce an updated sheet after every battle that shows the difference, that shows your placing in the overall player category.
Wonderful.
Absolutely.
Thank you.
Yeah, I think this is really important because, again, I want individual players to feel like their individual contributions, no matter the team, count towards their personal glory. And to be able to say, I got a crown, I hope is going to be a very prestigious thing, whether it's even a bronze crown, because that's going to still be the top percentile of players in the league. Does anybody else have any questions?
Yeah, I got a quick question.
Yeah.
How do you plan to make the weekly stuff, I guess, in a way, televised? You talked a little bit about it's going to be streamed, there's going to be multiple camera angles. Is this something that X is committing to, or do you have basically I'm trying to figure out how it's sustainable to do that every week, because in the NA competition leagues that we've been running for like just general hold fast, like the line battle leagues, the RGL leagues, that sort of thing, it's sometimes difficult to get like the same quality of people every single week. So
so one of the big issues, of course, is going to be when we ourselves are competing. That's going to be the hardest part because, mostly we're going to have X, the Admiralty and our adjutants, who are like our understudy admirals. They're going to be doing most of that coverage. And there's going to be a lot of ships, and I'm not entirely sure we can have somebody on every single ship, but we're going to try. And what we're going to do is we're hopefully going to have, a Discord call that we're all going to be in. And this is preliminary. We're going to spend the next month or two ironing out this part specifically, because this is going to be the hardest part, is the coverage, but it is the most important part to me, because I think getting good coverage is going to translate into people wanting to participate, to be able to grow the league, and to be able to obviously put it out there for mass consumption. So the goal is I will be sitting with another individual or two, and we'll be doing the commentary. Meanwhile, we will have people who are embedded on the ships, and we will switch over to their screen on a Discord call to watch minute things happening. Like I said, like a boarding action is one of the things I'm very excited to be able to see. Somebody sees on their screen, hey, Merc, we're going to have a boarding action on the second A-gun on the British fleet in just a second. Or we see it from above, and we'll find the correspondent who's on that ship watching, and they will be able to zoom into that individual action, and we'll get to see how it plays out. And that will be multiple members of X who are all streaming alongside of us, and we'll switch over to their screens on the overall like Twitch stream that we're going to be doing. And that way, so we'll be streaming the Discord call, and then we'll be switching over to the individual's view to see their specific, minute, detailed view. Does that make sense?
Yep.
So that's where my head's at right now. I'm not a particularly experienced Twitch streamer. Actually, you're definitely one of the guys I was going to be approaching in the future to get some suggestions on how that can be done and some of the practices that you guys use, so that we do put this out in a way that looks really good. So the current media plan for me right now is to have the stream. Then at midweek, I'd like to create a video in which I do a deeper dive breakdown, sort of an after the fact breakdown, where I'll just kind of riff on and talk about what I saw in the battle and what moments were really crucial and who really performed that we might not have noticed in the thick of things. And so I want to do like a deep dive analysis every week if I can. We'll see if I can. If not, maybe we'll do it every 2 weeks and then go back to the battles, whatever. But the point of it is to create, again, that stream, then a deep dive analysis of the strategy, and then a teaser for the next week's game. Talking about some of the stakes, who were the people to watch. Maybe one of the things I'm really excited to do is I want to talk to the admirals beforehand of each team, and I want to get some of their predictions on the record. Now, we won't release that anytime before the actual event, but after the fact, we'll go back and we'll pull the admirals into the after action commentary, and we'll say, okay, we're going to play what you told me. This is what you thought was going to happen ahead of time. This is what actually happened. Tell us what changed, or how did it go, or how did you achieve that, or what was your consideration? So I really want to get into the nerdy, brainy part of the planning and execution of battle strategies with everybody. And so that's some of the coverage. Like, these are some of the ideas that are ruminating in my head now as we talk about it. But that hopefully answers your question on what our methodology is going to be and how we're going to get the coverage. And it's going to be a lot of guys from X doing a lot of recording. And on the weeks that we don't have a lot of guys from X, because maybe we're going to be competing, I may ask and reach out to some of you guys that are also part of the league community to sub in and also help that. We're going to have a guy who's probably in X who's going to be kind of like, he's going to be with me. This is Geth. I don't know if you guys probably don't know him. He's an old X admiral, and he and I are going to be doing the commentary together. And on the weeks that I'm actually competing, I will not be obviously commentating. He will be commentating with maybe a guest host, which could be one of you guys, somebody who is not competing that day, but is usually an admiral who will have lots of experience, and who will be able to give that tactical commentary, just like I am when I'm not competing. And so if you guys are interested in helping out with that, obviously we would love to have people who are on those weeks that X is competing to be the guys on the ground. And we're going to try and make sure that X doesn't have its first battle right away, so that we could do a few weeks of coverage so that you guys can see what it looks like. And so that by the time you guys maybe jump on board to help us on an X week, an X competition week, that you guys will know kind of what it feels like to be part of that. So that's obviously the main hurdle for us. But does that make sense to you? Did that seem like a decent kind of action plan for how that would work?
Let me just put it this way. This is much better thought out than anything I've seen from anyone else before.
Thank you. Well, I try. When we do something in X, we try to do it real good.
I will also say it's a lot more ambitious than anything anyone else has done before. So
yeah,
you'll have your time to deal with that.
Good thing.
Yeah, I think all of
ambition for this.
Have you spoken with Merc before?
Yeah, have you met me?
Not outside of XNL in this room, no.
Well, Yeah, that's I'm always shooting for the stars on this kind of stuff because we've really we've been very fortunate in X to be able to just kind of keep setting up goals and knocking goals down. I think you're going to be seeing an X EU public server in the near future, and you know, the NA public server that we've already got. These are all the products of some seriously impossible ambitions that we have managed to nonetheless achieve. And so this one is obviously definitely the most ambitious project, and that is, but we're there. This is where we're at. You know, we're at a point where we have an excellent, I mean, guys like Gunr, Killam, Atticus, Warble, these guys are been hosting events since for years now. These guys are extraordinarily capable administrators and organizers. And when you have that kind of deep rank of skill and talent in your leadership, you get to do crazy fucking ideas and see if they work. Hey, well, the worst thing this does is it completely crashes, burns, and nobody pays attention to it. And hey, we tried. But I truly believe that if we do this in a sustainable way, in a way that it's not asking too much from any individual regiment to participate, but at the same time, it still gives you that prestige that comes from competition, and it creates a kind of narrative storyline over the course of a year that people can follow and enjoy, and we can really get into the gritty details of how to win and conquer in a naval battle. I think people will be gravitating towards that. I think people will be really interested in it. So we'll see how it goes, right? Anyone else have any comments or questions or advice or concerns about any of what I've kind of pitched to you guys so far?
I think it sounds great.
You guys are okay.
I like,
Well, yeah,
I like how it's structured.
that's the next question. Are you guys interested? Would you guys be interested in participating?
Absolutely.
yeah.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah.
Great.
That's Blood Bowl legal, then.
Go sports.
Sports.
Sports ball.
It's definitely doable because no one here. I don't think a lot of us are big melee players.
Nah.
It sounds very similar to like RGL stuff, where
This is
they'll
why we
have
play Naval.
commentators watching, and they'll have maybe not like very in-depth player stats, but they have like who has the biggest impact, who has the most block. You know,
Yeah.
they have stuff like that. And
As
they'll
it
give
is
out
now,
awards too.
As it is now, we have a wealth of information about any of you guys who participate in our weekly events. We use that to balance the events. So every team has scores in our internal system that we use to balance the events. And no, ahead of time, we're not going to share those guys with you about where you stand, because we don't want to insult anybody or hurt anybody's feelings. But each week, the balance that we create. I mean, like at this point, if you look at my score, like the Merc score, my personal score, I have a 50% win rate in our events, and that is because that's what we're trying to get. We're trying to get it so that, you know,
balanced, yeah.
That balance, like a perfect kind of balance. And you know, I know a lot of you guys will come to our events some week, be like, "Oh my god, the balance was really rough this week," and that's sometimes it's true, but that's because we're always trying to tweak that balance to create situations where one team does not just always win. And I think if you come to our events, you can see that even X, who we're really fucking good at Naval, we do not always win battles, and that's the idea. So you know, kudos to guys like Killam and guys like Warble, who are our information gurus in the regiment, and how they use that detailed information to create better naval experiences for you guys. And we don't really consult the player stats very often. We mostly do it internally to like talk about each other and as leaders to like talk about like who's really showing quality stuff. But like for other regiments, like we don't really, you know, your stats are your stats. We have them because it's interesting to have, but we started compiling them so that when we started this league, we could say ahead of time, hey, listen, you know, in the Sunday events, Bulldog is known for this and that, and he's a really great this, and he's a really great that, and Darling and Jerp and these guys, if you put them together on a ship and you ask them to do this, they're going to be really successful most of the time. And we could see that reflected through the scores. And, you know, so that level of detailed commentary to look at an individual, to be able to pull up his statistics and to be able to make predictions and inform the audience about what you can expect out of this person, I think is going to make for a really engaging watch. And hopefully that's what we can get in the future. So it's not going to just be like, what does Lemerc know about you? It's going to be like, what does the data say about you? Because to be honest, I don't know shit. But when it comes to the data, you know, you're going to get well represented. Your actions and your achievements are going to be represented through that data. And then on the side, we'll be able to talk about the unmeasurables, you know, the morale factors, the the decisive leadership factors, the captains, for example. Captains you can't really measure. So that's a part where I'm very intimately familiar with, right? So I could talk about the captaining aspect of things, and then we can have the numbers talk about the individual performance side of things. And that's what we're trying to really try and get into to create some exciting coverage. So if you guys are all interested, the next step is to make sure that you are in communication with me. What I would suggest for anybody who is here right now or who may be watching this video in the future to catch up on what we're talking about now, you want to get to, if you can bring 20 people comfortably, you're good to go. You're again, like KRN, you guys are probably just good to go, right? You could probably bring 20 people one Sunday a month to an event. I'm pretty sure. I'm sure you could probably fill out your entire 30-man team, in which case you won't even need mercenaries. If you can, and if you can't, that's fine. We can always get you the mercenaries because we're going to have so many teams who are not playing on any given week, and I'm sure those guys are going to still be gunning to compete.
Okay.
That said, if you do not have that, if you're not lucky enough to have that capability, that manpower, you want to combine with one other regiment because we will only be 2 regiments combined to create a team. We're not going to be doing 3, 4, or 5. And if your regiment is too small and you can't find somebody to, like, if you're a 5 guys who love Naval, I know, I same thing, Swag. I'm sure X guys are going to merc every fucking battle that they can get, and it will be chosen at random. So sometimes you'll get in, sometimes you won't. We'll see how it goes. But if you are a regiment that is too small to pair up and make that 20-ish people, we'd like to err to type 20. We'll take 15, but we'd like 20. Then don't worry. Don't make a team. Just be a mercenary. Be somebody who wants to come into the battles, and we'll try to make sure that everybody gets turns. We're gonna have a lot of battles over the course of the year. As many battles as we have weeks without a holiday on them, and so that is the ways that you can contribute and participate in the league, even if you can't personally get your regiment in. But my hope is that, again, we're looking to at least 7 teams, and I'd much prefer somewhere around 10 teams. So I'm going to be reaching out to a lot of regiments in the next few weeks. And so I'm looking to start this ideally 2 to 3 months from now. And that's going to give you guys time to really understand what we're going to be working with, start strategizing, start practicing in your weekly practices, start working on those fleet ideas and what you're going to be doing with them. And so I hope that you guys will stay in touch with me and I will stay in touch with you. And this evolution of what we started here in the XNL will be the next great success for all of us. And with that, I've said my piece. If there's anything you guys want to mention, floor is open to any of you guys. If you guys have questions or concerns, I will address them now. If you want specifics on anything that I've talked about, I'm here and I'll be hanging out here for a little while to help you out. Otherwise, you guys are all dismissed and thank you so much for your time. But like I said, I'll be hanging out here if you guys have any questions or want to talk about anything.
Why not make it like a draft league?
Because we want regiments to be able to claim the pride of victory to themselves. That was something that was suggested to me. Gunnar had that idea earlier on of making a draft league. First of all, I think it's a lot more complicated to organize as just to say, can 2 regiments make it to a Sunday? They have their own built-in systems of marshaling everybody as compared to me having to do it. And I'd rather let you guys do your own, roll call and all that stuff than have me have to do it. But also, I just really want regiments to be able to be represented. I want you to be able to say my regiment won instead of me leading this group of random people won. Because I think the individual score tracking system is going to allow individuals to get their own glory, but in the context of teams. I don't want to fight without my crew. I've trained them from day one. These are my guys. I want to fight alongside them. I think that most regiments are going to feel the same about their own teams. And I want to preserve that. That's, it was a choice, but that's the one I ended up making.
Actually, that brings up an interesting question because this will be very heavily stats based. And you said you guys will be regulating who gets assigned to whatever team if you're coming in as a merc for a particular day. Is that going to be
random?
Oh, it's just going to be random. You're not even going to look at the person's kind of overall rating, I guess, if there's such a thing.
It's possible. It's possible that we may divide like into thirds, perhaps. Like this is something I was thinking about as well. Like we may divide all of the mercenaries who sign up into thirds based off of their ranking on that overall score, and maybe like pick randomly from the top third, pick randomly from the middle third, and trip randomly from the bottom third to just make sure that there's sort of like an even spread of talent. I'm not entirely sure. Like I really need to think on that. Don't quote me on that. That's going to be the way that we do it. But I can understand how good performers and bad performers can sway things in a way that might be uncomfortable for the teams. But at the same time, that itself is part of the fun, right? Is that like, you know, if you get a really good team, then you are favored to win. And if you get a really bad team, then you have to work against those odds and make sure your staffing is correct and make sure they're being led well by your crew. Because when you think about it, it is going to be like a third of your team who are going to be mercenaries, and or at least for most teams. And so, you know, when you like the way we're thinking about it is now, okay, we're really training to be officers at this point. Like we're training the X crew to be officers of the people on our ships. Now, obviously, not everybody's going to be an officer, but there's going to be a lot of people who are going to need officering, right? Who are maybe not used to the way that we run things, who are not, who just haven't been trained with X. And so we're going to have guys there next to them, making sure that they're performing at our capacity that we want them to. And I highly encourage all the other regiments to do the same, which is, you know, get your guys ready, not just to battle, but to lead people who are not you, and try to bring out the best of them. But it also, you know, it's important for me that people who are lower on that totem pole, maybe they had a bad day or their captains didn't help them to get the scores that they want. Those scores are not necessarily going to be the be all end all of your performance. You might be better than your team. And then you get put on, and something interesting to see might be how a person who has a relatively low rank but gets put on a team with a relatively high rank, and all of a sudden their score pops off out of nowhere, and you can see that it wasn't them who were underperforming, it was their team that was underperforming, and that can be valuable information as well. So I don't want to limit people's chances to prove us wrong with the numbers, and that's why I'm not totally 100% sold on that like tiering system. But we might do that just so that people don't feel like they're not getting the best mercenaries. So it's a really well said point, and it's something I have to think about a lot. Any other questions or comments? No?
Yes.
Sure.
Can you repeat that with the 2 boats selectable from the 3 gunboats and 3?
Sure. Right. So when we spawn in your ships, you're going to have a 13 gun, you're going to have 4 8 guns, and you're going to have 3 gunboats and 3 rocket boats. Okay. Only 2 of those gunboats and or rocket boats can be deployed at any given time. They have to sink before you can get another one, but they're just going to sit in your spawn. So for example, when the ships take off, you're going to see the sails drop on the 13 gun. You're going to see the sails drop on all 4 8 guns, and then you're going to see one of the gunboats and maybe one of the rocket boats, or maybe 2 of the gunboats, or maybe 2 rocket boats, right? Any combination of those that you want, you're going to be able to take out 2 of those boats at a time. In the battle, those boats will go out, they'll fight, they'll play. One of those gunboats will sink. For example, let's say in the beginning you take out 2 gunboats. So that means you leave 1 gunboat and 3 rocket boats behind in your spawn. Those 2 gunboats go out, they do whatever battling they can do, then they get sunk. One of those gunboats gets sunk. As soon as that gunboat goes down, its crew immediately can switch over to the remaining 1 gunboat or one of the 3 rocket boats, and then take that out and join the battle with that ship. Does that make sense?
Yes, thank you.
Yeah, so you can choose how you want to deploy those ships. You'll have multiples of them. They'll be just sitting there waiting for you, but you can only take out 2 at a time. It could be any 2 you want, but you can only take out 2 at a time. Any other questions?
Yeah, for the timing as well, did you say that it's going to mostly be weekends, or are you choosing like a day?
Ideally, I'd like it to be Sundays, and I'd like it to be like almost right about now. Like the 3:15, this is my time, Eastern, American Eastern time. It's 3:08 right now. So this is when it seems like all the line battles kind of conclude. And then there's that sort of breath between when the line battles finish before the X Sunday event starts. That right there is when I'd like to be doing it.
15 after EU line battle clock.
Yes,
Oh,
15
probably
after
work
line-
for most people.
Yeah, I think it's going to work for most people. I know EU is a big part of the naval community, so I really want to make sure that the EU guys are taken care of. But I think that also works for NA guys who are themselves probably not doing anything right now.
Is it late enough for the NA guys? Or
Yeah, I
sorry,
mean, for right
early
now,
enough?
it's like 3 p.m. for me right now on the East Coast. Usually I'm home by now, unless I'm doing something this weekend. But usually I keep my Sundays free anyway because we have an event. So
I
yeah,
have my
hopefully.
crackers Sundays, as you know, Drafe.
So hopefully this time will work for everybody. If it doesn't, we'll find another one. But this seems like the sweet spot right here, right? The time we're in, basically right now. And we'll have again probably about 15. Like we're going to try and take the hour, and we're going to have like 15 or 20 minutes of pre-coverage leading up to the battle. Then the battle itself with its coverage, and then an after-action kind of meeting where we pull in some of the leaders of the two teams. We talk to them, we break it down, see how that played out, and go over some of the highlights of the battles. So that's what we're looking for. And that probably, like I said, that sounds about like an hour. Maybe we'll bring both of those before and after down to 10 minutes, make it like a 15-minute, 45-minute kind of thing, but we'll see. And once a week, again, you guys will only have to participate. Each regiment will only have to participate, about once a month because of the numbers of groups that we're trying to do. It could be even less than that, actually. Could be more like, once every 5 or 6 weeks, depending on how many teams we get to sign up. So hopefully it's very doable, sustainable. Now, if you guys do agree to this, one of the things I don't want to hear is, hey, we have a line battle this time. Sorry, we can't do it this week. Like if you sign up to this league and you want to do it, and we're going to schedule this out, like I said, way beforehand. This isn't going to be like a 2 days before thing. We're going to ask you to sign up for your match. You're going to know months ahead of time when your matches are coming up. And if that's the case, then we are going to expect you to show up in force every battle that you're scheduled for. And with the understanding that even if like the reg leader can't make it, that somebody is going to be there to lead your team. If individuals can't make it, that's okay. As long as the team can make it, the team is going to be expected to show up. So it's good to have a good bench of people. You want a first leader, you want a second leader, you want a third leader. I've got my guys. I know who I would pick if I couldn't make it to a particular battle in a week, who could still lead my fleet, and I'm comfortable with them leading. I'm sorry, I interrupted somebody who was talking.
I was going to ask, I know that you guys are recording this, but I was wondering, will it come with some form of announcement covering some of the talking points that you made?
Yeah, I'm gonna be making big announcements because this was a very small selection of the group of people who will hopefully participate. These are some of the absolutely represented here. Are a lot of the regiments I really want to see participate, but there are many more, and I want to bring more people in, even than we had for the XNL, hopefully. So yes, I will be making not only will this video be available to everybody, but also I'll be detailing a lot of what we covered here. Probably just going to listen to this video again and then write it all out.
Thank you.
So yeah, of course. Anything else? Any other
I do
questions?
feel like you could get more teams in for this style because obviously if they're not having to commit every week for a match, then you can trust there'll be more people showing up more regularly.
Yeah, that was the
Smaller
idea.
regiments, maybe.
Because what were the biggest concerns that we all expressed about the XNL? Scheduling, the ability to get people into a particular time and having multiple regiments, I just wanted to solve by just slowing the whole process down. Think of it as a competition, just like we did in the XNL, except spread over the entire year. It's nice and slow and deliberate, with lots of time to go and look at the footage of last week, see what your future enemy did in their last battle, plan accordingly. I really want you guys to feel free to get real into this and get real strategic about it and play for keeps. And know that there will be an audience watching, because we're going to be posting these videos all over the place in the Hold Fast Discord. We're going to be posting it on YouTube. We're going to be obviously Twitch streaming it. We really want to make this a spectacle for everybody.
Sounds brilliant.
Awesome. Well, again, I'm going to hang out here, guys. You guys are free to go if you want. You're free to stay and hang out and chit chat with me. I'm going to hang out here probably for another 15 minutes, just in case you guys come up with any questions or concerns that you want to address with me. But aside from that, X crew, I know you guys probably have to, you'll have to get going in the near future to set up the events. So obviously you guys are dismissed if you guys want to go do your own thing or
take
a
I just
bathroom
want
break
to
or whatever.
hop on in and talk to at least what I presume Atticus would say. I want to give a big shout out to Amit and Muffin for being drafted pretty much into helping host and admin and then getting recordings. And then also to, he's not here right now, but Salty and Dre from 63, who were able to give us some servers to just be able to run multiple events at one time. So big shout out to you guys. Really appreciate you.
Thank you. Thank you so much. That was so helpful for us
Salty
to have that
loves
back up.
scoring out our servers. Don't worry.
That's great.
With that, I'm going to go ahead and dip on out for setup.
I'm still hungover, so I need a nap before the event.
Don't forget to.
See you later.
See you later.
See you.
See you guys.
See ya.
See you later.
See you.
Thanks. Thanks for coming. Of
Yeah, thank you very much.
course. Look forward to seeing you in the league.
I have an actual question, even if
Sure.
I'm late.
No, that's okay. What's up?
Like, I was more wondering out of the format, like, are you doing it more, like, what kind of sports league? Because there are multiple different leagues.
Yeah, I mean, I'm not actually a big sports fan myself, so I'm just kind of thinking about what I think a league looks like, and we're gonna just kind of wing it when it comes to like what we're taking from any particular sport. Mostly, we want to create our own thing. We don't want it to be too derivative of anything, but it's more, honestly, most of my inspiration comes from other people who have streamed other holdfast competitions before, and just watching them and hearing them, just like to have people have a conversation about what you're doing in your game. It just gives such a sensation of like legitimacy and that sportsman like feel, that festival feel. Like I want it to feel like a festival of skill and a festival of competition, and that when you come and you tune in, you're going to be with a group of people who are just obsessively interested in this thing, and that you can learn through them about what it takes to be great at Naval, and you can watch great Naval players compete against each other and learn for yourselves, and again, feel like you're part of that community. So there's no particular sport that I'm really basing it off of. Like everything that I do, it's going to be very much all my own.
That sounds fun.
Well,
Looking
I hope so.
forward to it already.
Good. Well, yeah, I hope if you enjoyed the XNL, it's just going to get bigger and better from here. So
That
that's
sounds
what you can look
good.
forward to.
Let's hope it brings out soon. Take care.
Yeah, take care.
Yeah, mate. Take care, man.
Take care. I'm gonna head out as well.
Yeah, see you guys. Thanks so
See you,
much.
man.